What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
This is Paige DeSorbo, the co-host of Giggly Squad. I have exciting news. McDonald's has all new McCrispy strips. It's chicken made for dipping. Tender, juicy white meat chicken with a golden brown, peppery breading. It's chicken so good it deserves its own sauce. The creamy chili McCrispy strip dip, a sauce that's creamy, savory, and sweet with a little heat. But it works with any of our sauces. I'm personally a barbecue sauce girl. Even sometimes I like ketchup. I'm just like basic sometimes. But I also need it in addition to any new sauces I'm trying. With a new creamy chili McCrispy strip dip, it's chicken made for dipping, only at McDonald's.
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay. And you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love. What does the term digital workplace mean to you? In today's world of AI, robotics, and AR, it's much more than an office full of people on computers. It can be anywhere from a factory floor to the top of a crane to the cockpit of an F1 car. Wherever your digital workplace may be, TeamViewer's mission is to make work better. How? By securely connecting your people with the data, expertise, or insights they need in real time to make work more efficient. By automating and streamlining IT and OT support to fix problems before they happen, to make work more productive. And by bringing all the possibilities of a secure and flexible digital workplace to all your people everywhere to make work more innovative. So discover how TeamViewer can make work better, wherever it happens across your business. Learn more at teamviewer.com/workbetter.
This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, May 12th, 2025. We tell you what you need to know, follow up on context, and just try to help each other understand.
Today, the longest-running Apple podcast turns 20, and what does the U.S.-China tariff reduction mean for tech consumers?
I'm wondering, too. I'm Tom Merritt.
And I'm Robb Dunewood.
Let's start with what you need to know with that big story. So you probably heard about this everywhere, but, just to get the facts on the table, China and the U.S. agreed to reduce tariffs, dropping the percentages by 115 each between the two countries for 90 days while the two countries negotiate a trade deal. The reduction begins Wednesday and generally ends up resetting the tariffs about to where they were in April. The U.S. will lower its reciprocal tariffs, that's a particular kind, on Chinese goods to 30%, and China will lower its reciprocal tariffs on U.S. goods to 10%. Now, there are still other tariffs at different rates, both higher and lower for specific types of goods. For instance, steel has its own rate. But the ones that went in April that jumped them up above 100%, those are going back down. The U.S. has not reinstated the exemption that let goods valued less than $800 into the U.S. with no tariff. That exemption was the one that was used by a lot of companies, most famously Shein and Temu, to give you cheap goods in the U.S. because they just drop ship them without paying a tariff. So that hasn't changed. And so the availability of products in those stores is still going to be different. There also was no announcement on China's restriction on exporting rare earth minerals for U.S. companies to use, though China did allude to suspending some non-tariff trade measures as part of this, so we may yet get that. In fact, by the time you hear me, maybe they've announced something about that. This is probably going to keep that empty shelves problem from happening because those boats are going to start coming. Those planes are going to start coming. The LA port was saying we got 5 to 7 weeks about 4 to 5 weeks ago. So we're cutting it close, but it looks like that won't end up being a problem. It also means that a lot of companies that we're holding the line on prices. Now we'll feel a little relief that those prices can stay the same without having to eat the loss. What else can you think of here that changes things for the tech consumer?
I knew that a lot of people bought stuff on Shein and Temu and sites like that, but I didn't know how many people bought stuff on sites like TN and Shein, those type of sites.
Yeah.
So, although the 115% drop for both countries is a really, really good thing, because we're going to still be able to get stuff that we didn't think we were going to be able to get if they wouldn't have done something about that. There's going to be a lot of people who are still going to be upset. But wait a minute, I can't, summer's coming up. Where do I go get my short set? So I think that that's going to still be very visible, because those are sites that a lot of people use every single day.
Yeah. And it's not like they are empty now. And it's not like everything's expensive on those sites. They are having to be creative about where they source those products from. They can source them from other places. A lot of what they seem to be doing, if I'm reading the tea leaves, and this is me looking at things they've said and things that have happened in the past, is bringing big shipments at bulk rates into the U.S. and then packaging them up and delivering them from within the U.S., from within U.S. warehouses, versus what they were doing before a lot of times, which was packaging things from China and saying, hey, it's below $800, doesn't have to pay a tariff. So they have to get a little more creative. Those prices aren't going to be as crazy low as they were before, but I think you'll still be able to find some bargains. And more importantly, when you go into Target, Kmart, I'm dating myself there, but when you go into Target, Walmart, places like that, you're going to see the normal range of products, right, and they're probably going to be roughly the same prices they would have been.
Yeah, it won't look like the night before Christmas Eve.
Yeah, that's right.
There will actually be stuff there.
There won't be 100 blue shorts in size medium, and that's it, right? You're going to have selection.
Now, I do wonder, because this pause is only 90 days. What happens after 90 days? Because it does give U.S. consumers a little bit of certainty of what's going to happen, at least for 3 months. But as you said earlier, some of these ships, they take 7 weeks to get here. From the time that they load them up, ship them over here, get the stuff off of them, and get them on the shelves. It takes a couple months. So I wonder what's going to happen after the 90 days. Do they get a deal done? Do we get another extension? There's still some uncertainty here.
Yeah, the vibe is that the 90 days should be enough time to make progress, and they'll probably give another extension if they don't have something done in 90 days. But everybody seems to be talking nicely to each other. And I think it's worth pointing out that 30% U.S. reciprocal tariff is because of a fentanyl issue. They've been talking about fentanyl in these talks, so that could come down as well. But the U.S. has said they just want to keep 10%. They want to keep a 10% tariff on everything, so that might not go away.
So what it was before all this started.
Yeah.
DTNS is made possible by you, the listener, thanks to Johnny Hernandez, High Ticket Oki, Chris Zaragoza, and Heli Rasmussen.
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay, and you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. You can find anything there. It's unreal. Wipers, headlights, even cold air intakes. It's all there. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. Look, DIY fixes can be major. Doesn't matter if it's just maintenance or a major mod. You got it, especially when things are guaranteed to fit. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
This is Paige DeSorbo, the co-host of Giggly Squad. I have exciting news. McDonald's has all new McCrispy strips. It's chicken made for dipping. Tender, juicy white meat chicken with a golden brown, peppery breading. It's chicken so good it deserves its own sauce. The creamy chili McCrispy strip dip, a sauce that's creamy, savory, and sweet with a little heat. But it works with any of our sauces. I'm personally a barbecue sauce girl. Even sometimes I like ketchup. I'm just like basic sometimes. But I also need it in addition to any new sauces I'm trying. With a new creamy chili McCrispy strip dip, it's chicken made for dipping, only at McDonald's.
Ever wonder what your lashes are destined for? The cards have spoken. Maybelline New York Mascara does it all. Whether you crave fully fan lashes with Lash Sensational, big, bold volume from the Colossal, a dramatic lift with Falsies Lash Lift, or natural-looking volume from Great Lash, your perfect lash future awaits. Manifest your best mascara today. Shop Maybelline New York and discover your lash destiny. Shop now at Walmart.
When you're starting off with something new, it seems like your to-do list keeps growing. Finding the right tool helps, and that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of U.S. e-commerce. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/retail. Go to shopify.com/retail.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
There's more we need to know today. Let's get to the briefs.
Torrent Freak published an overview of how DNS providers are dealing with multiple orders in Europe to block alleged pirate sites. Courts in France, Italy, and Belgium have all ordered Cisco's OpenDNS, Cloudflare, and Google to redirect visitors from the domain names of these sites to somewhere else. OpenDNS stopped operating its service in France and Belgium rather than block sites. Cloudflare users in those countries get a 451 error page saying that the site is blocked for legal reasons, with a link to the Lumen database explaining the applicable cases. Google simply says it cannot find the website as if it does not exist. And Tom, the Google response is the one that's kind of surprising to me. That's not very transparent. It actually is not what the guidance from the courts is. So I found it kind of interesting.
I found that interesting too. I don't know if that's just them sending a message or if that was the easier way to implement it. It's hard to say. But yeah, this is something to watch, and it's interesting to see OpenDNS take the hardest line out of this and say, listen, we are just not going to be available to French users anymore if you want us to block these. And if you're wondering, like, why would they have a problem with this? Usually what you do is you go to ISPs and say, these sites are illegal, don't deliver them to the users, and ISPs follow the legal order. DNS is supposed to be agnostic. DNS is supposed to say, if there's a table that says this domain name goes to this machine, then we direct it. And DNS providers don't like getting in the business of having to preferentially treat domain names and decide what domain names get launched, even if it's with legal orders, especially when it's like, well, you can deliver it in this country, but not that country. That's just against the spirit of how this is supposed to work, which is, it is a neutral table. It is not an area for enforcement.
Tom, you and I are both old enough to remember these magical books called telephone books that had people's name in them, and right next to their name, it would have their telephone number, and in some cases, it might even have their address.
Yeah.
And what it seems like here is that you're not saying to the telephone company, don't allow this address to work or don't allow this telephone number to work. You're telling the telephone company who makes the book, or the company says the book, hey, don't tell people what this telephone number is. So that is different operation than what we normally see in these kind of cases.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Another interesting thing going on is that last week, the U.S. Copyright Office issued a pre-publication version of its opinion on how copyright works with generative AI training. This is a big deal. Everybody's trying to figure this out. And in that publication, it included its evaluations of various fair use arguments. Is training an AI a fair use of copyrighted material? This publication is meant for public comment before the office issues its final opinion. And even when the final opinion comes, it's not law. It's not meant to be law. It's meant to be used in court cases to understand how an expert, the U.S. Copyright Office, views this particular matter. It's still up to judges to decide how to interpret the law. But this is expert opinion. Over the weekend, the U.S. fired the Register of Copyrights, Shira Perlmutter, leading many to assume it was because of that publication. Now, there's no evidence one way or another if the two are connected or not. And the Librarian of Congress was also fired at the same time. So it's possible this is just the administration clearing people out for various reasons. They gave some reasons why they fired the Librarian of Congress. And the report itself is not very controversial. I'm going to read a few more extended passages from this just to get across what the flavor of this report is, because you may be seeing the headlines, but you're not hearing that. It says, "It is for the courts to weigh the statutory factors together in light of the purposes of copyright with no mechanical computation or easy formula." Basically, they're saying that there's no easy way to determine this. So courts are going to have to decide which of these cases to take. How much each factor adds to the balance and in which direction will depend on the facts and circumstances of the particular case. So they're saying each case is going to be different. They also added this. The office expects that some uses of copyrighted works for generative AI training will qualify as fair use, and some will not. On one end of the spectrum, uses for purposes of non-commercial research or analysis that do not enable portions of the works to be reproduced in the outputs are likely to be fair. On the other end, the copying of expressive works from pirate sources in order to generate unrestricted content that competes in the marketplace when licensing is reasonably available, is unlikely to qualify as fair use. Many uses, however, will fall somewhere in between. So they're saying, if you train a model and put filters in to not produce copyrighted works and use it for research, that's probably fair use. If you train a model and steal the sources from pirated sources, you don't even go to public sources, and then you specifically create that model to output copyrighted works, then that's not going to be fair use. Meredith Rose at consumer advocacy group Public Knowledge said on Blue Sky that, and this is her quote, "The report is 113 pages of, well, it depends."
That's what this sounds like. It's like, you know what? We'll figure it out on a case-by-case basis. That's exactly what this sounds like to me. And honestly, that's probably the best way to go, because every case is not going to be the same. These cases, there will be some that will be the same, but many of these are going to be very different circumstances. So you don't want to apply a broad brush to everyone. You want to look at them and figure out what actually makes sense.
Yeah, I was pleased to see that they had a nice long discussion of when it could be fair use and when it wouldn't, but also said, you know what, the courts are going to have to decide this until we get better law.
I really do hope that two things just happen here that are kind of related, but it's not a coincidence. I mean, or it is a coincidence that they just happened. You got two people who just got fired. One who's kind of over, these opinions. I hope that it is not because of anything. It doesn't sound like it is. This is very, it's not nefarious sounding at all. And, it's really just saying, this is what we're going to do. We're going to look at these cases in a one-by-one way, and we'll figure out what makes sense or go to the courts.
Yeah, agreed.
Honor announced an image-to-video generator coming to its 400 series of phones that uses Google's VO2 model that would make it available on Honor phones before it's integrated into Gemini. Honor's version will not accept text prompts and only make it up to 5 seconds of video. Honor will announce all the details of the phones at an event on May 22nd.
Well, it's Monday, which means we have some Apple leaks from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman to look over. In his Power On newsletter, which comes out on Sunday, Gurman says his sources say iOS 19 will be able to sync the info you fill in forms for Wi-Fi credentials, like when you're in a hotel or gym or an airport, across all your Apple devices, making it faster to log in on multiple devices. Also, Apple may launch a mostly glass curved iPhone with no screen cutout in autumn 2027. That would celebrate 20 years of the iPhone. He also said the first foldable iPhone should be out in 2027, along with the first smart glasses, the first LLM-powered Siri, and a tabletop robot. In non-Gurman news, the Wall Street Journal sources say Apple may raise the price of its iPhones this autumn, but not try to blame it on tariffs. They haven't actually raised the price on the flagship in a while, so that could be just due. And data from the China Academy of Information and Communications Technology indicate that foreign phone sales in China tanked in March, including the iPhone, by 49.6% on the year.
That's a big drop. As far as Mark Gurman is concerned, the thing that got my eye is that all glass iPhone sounds pretty. That could be a beautiful looking device. I don't know that I would want to hold it because it sounds like it could be, Apple is they do a pretty good job.
How much is left that isn't glass already when you got glass on the back? So
I
don't know. But
yeah, no cutout for screen is just it's
Under
just screen until there's
ID,
air. I don't know. That sounds kind of impressive to me. Peacock announced some new features that will come when it begins streaming NBA games in October. An optional performance view will show a live shot chart and percentages for different types of shots for players with the ball. It will also start showing games as soon as you open the app to make it more prominent. There will be a scorecard feature that lets you predict things like which players will get 25 points or more than 10 rebounds, etc. You can compete with other viewers and get on a leaderboard as well as earn some kind of points in the Peacock system. You'll also be able to scroll through highlights beneath the video player to catch up on games you missed. And later next season, Peacock will add Courtside Live, which lets you see views from an alternate angle on the court.
Yeah, this is the benefit of moving these games to streaming. I know the negative is like, man, I have to get another service now. I have to keep track of where the games are and all of that. But the upside could be that you get cooler ways to view because it's all coming over the internet instead of having to be broadcast on cable or over the air.
These are really cool ways. Now, I am a Peacock subscriber, so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what some of these features will be. But it's getting to the point to where it is actually, in many cases, better to watch the game on a screen than it is to watch the game at the game. I mean, it's you just get so much information coming at you. And one of the things I know the stadiums are doing, they're trying to actually take some of this streaming technology and put it into the stadium so that you can use a tablet or your phone right there while you're watching a live game and see some of the same stuff because it's so appealing.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest things about the Clippers' new stadium is they have a lot of that kind of stuff, and they have a screen that you can interact with, that's a wraparound screen above the court and all of that. So yeah, I think this is interesting, and it'll make a lot more people try out the Peacock NBA streams, I bet. Scientists at University College London created a medical information model called Foresight using de-identified data from 8 different data sets collected by the UK's National Health Service between November 2018 and December 2023. The group is testing the model to see how well it does at assisting in various medical needs, all the way from diagnosis to broad health trend predictions. And the focus of the testing is on COVID-19. The model is only being used in the lab at this point. So the people who had the rights to access the data in the first place are the only people who can see what comes out of the model. Still, there are concerns about using public health data and the ethics of consent around this sort of thing. Justin Robert Young's going to have a more in-depth discussion of this on Monday's live stream. If you don't watch DTNS Live, you can get that youtube.com/Daily Tech News Show. But real quickly, Rob, what's your take?
I'm always wary about health information. It's so private and it's so important that my radar always goes off. But it sounds like they're doing this in a very, very, very safe way. The folks who are able to look at this were already able to look at it. It's not like additional people are getting access to it.
Yeah, and I think the worry is slippery slope, right? Like, okay, but once they get the product done, will other people be able to access it? And will they be able to tease data out of it that even though it's de-identified, could be traced back to a particular person? So it needs a lot of testing and a lot of verification before you do that. I feel like one of the easiest ways to make sure this isn't a problem is doctors being the only one to be able to use it who already have access to your medical information to begin with.
That would be a good place to start.
Yeah.
The Bluetooth Special Interest Group announced Bluetooth Core Specification 6.1. It includes randomized address updates to make it more difficult for third parties to track devices without permission. It also includes better power efficiency. The first chips that support Bluetooth 6.1 will arrive in 2026.
TechCrunch has an interesting article about a company called Inventwood that is commercializing a 2018 process that can make ordinary wood stronger than steel. Roger Chang's going to talk about this on our live stream as well. The first batches should come into production this summer. It'll be used in building materials.
Google has updated its iconic G logo. Instead of 4 solid color sections, the colored sections now blend into each other at the edges. The new logo first appeared in the search app for iOS.
I mean, it doesn't look that different. People are losing their minds, as they always do when a logo
I don't
changes.
know that I would have noticed if you wouldn't have told me, Tom.
Well, those are the essentials for today. Let's take a closer look at a story.
On May 13th, the longest-running Apple-centric podcast, NosillaCast, turns 20 years old. Tom talked to Allison Sheridan about what's changed in the podcasting world and what has kept them going.
Allison,
welcome back to the show. It's always good to talk to you.
Thanks, Tom. It's a pleasure to have invited myself on to talk to you.
Yes, thank you for pitching me this. Big milestone first. Congratulations on 20 years. I know you haven't reached it quite yet, but you're about to cross that line, and that's amazing. Well done.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. I know you've been podcasting, I think, probably longer than I have, but I've got one show that has been running longer than any other Apple-centric podcast. So it started in May of 2005 and it's been running ever since, every single week. I think I missed a couple of weeks when I went to Italy, like 2 or 3 years in. And ever since then, it's been every single week without missing a shot.
No,
so
you have been dedicated to getting people to filling in, even when you're on vacation and all of that. I imagine not much has changed in how you publish the show since 2005, though. So you're pretty much the same, right?
No, it's about the same. I remember my favorite story to tell is that when podcasting was first invented, there weren't tools to create an RSS feed. So Leo had started, I think it was Call for Help that he started doing as a podcast. And so I downloaded his RSS feed and I typed my feed out by hand. Mm-hmm. And it's a pretty simple format. It's kind of like an XML kind of a thing. It's got little angle brackets and you've got item and publish date and that sort of thing. But I got to the part where it said length for an item, and an item is an episode. And I'm sitting there going, length, what? Length in seconds? What is it? And it's this big, long number. And I remember spending like 45 minutes trying to figure it out. It was actual bytes. So I'm typing like 31726489. And if you get that wrong, the whole thing goes kablooey and doesn't work. But I mean, there weren't even podcatchers. I'm trying to remember when there was something with the word juice in it that was.
It was iPod or X, which then became Juice, I think.
Okay,
yeah.
Is that
or
what it
lemon?
Was? There was some liquid involved.
Yeah, but it was originally iPod or X, if I'm remembering correctly, and that was the client. If you didn't roll your own, which a lot of people were rolling their own back then. Yeah,
and the other thing was talking to people about it for the longest time, like practically up until Serial came out. I would have to say, so you know how like you could go to the store and try to buy a magazine and it's not there, and you go back the next day and you go back the next day and then finally you get it. But if you really like the magazine, you really want to just have it delivered to your house every week. That's what a podcast is. And people go, okay, can I get out of the grocery store line now and get away from you?
I'm really just trying to buy these green beans, ma'am. You're like, no, give me your phone. Like, we haven't invented smartphones yet, ma'am. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, it's not everything was by hand, not just your RSS feed, right? But also like you had to get an MP3 player if you were going to listen to these things on the go.
Oh, yeah. I remember for a long time, I would download Leo's shows as MP3s, burn them to CDs. Mm-hmm. I would listen to them in the car, and then I would hand them out at work. And there was like a whole flow down of people like, it's your turn for those. And I believe I still have a couple of those. Somebody gave me back, like, say, oh, I'm done with these now.
You were like Netflix for podcasting.
Yeah. Netflix before it was streaming.
Yeah.
I'm still fairly old school. I don't use what is the one everybody loves for using with WordPress? Might be Blueberry, whatever the plugins, to create your RSS feed. But I use a tool called Feeder from Reinvented Software, which is a really great text editor client for making your feed, and it's just rock solid and FTPs everything for me, and that works really well. But I've been using that for well over a decade.
I was going to say that's even somewhat old-fashioned at this point when there's so many services where people just upload their show and it creates the thing for them, like Acast, and Spotify has one that when they bought Anchor and all of that. So you're still doing it the old-fashioned way, by hand.
Yeah, and I'm fairly adamant. I know you love a lot of these tools and you're into the efficiency of being able to crank it out, not handcrafting things like an RSS feed. But one of the things I've really benefited from is always owning my feed. My feed has always been hosted on my website. Nobody's ever had it on their website. No service has ever owned it. And so I've never been beholden to anybody, had to extricate myself from somebody else's service and start over. It's been the same RSS feed. It's really stupid because I didn't know how many times I'd have to type it. It's really long and embedded. But doing it by hand, I know where it is. I don't really do it by hand anymore, but having it on my server, that really does help.
What other things? What things haven't changed actually? Because your show is remarkably consistent. I know it's evolved over the years, but having listened to it myself for a good portion of these 20 years, it never feels like it suddenly is a different show.
Well, I pride myself on making dumb decisions, like naming it. The NosillaCast, and people ask me what that means. I said, it's designed to making sure you can never find it with a search engine. My SEO is really terrible. My website is podfeet.com, which also means nothing. My husband says I have feet like pods, and that's where it came from. But I've done things like when we first started the show, it was just me doing the show, and it was maybe 20, 30 minutes long. And then Bart Bouchatz joined in and started doing a segment with me that we called Chit Chat Across the Pond because he's in Ireland.
Yeah.
And then I split that off as a separate show. And that was great because now we had two separate shows. But then over time, his Chit Chat Across the Pond started morphing into other shows, like we do a thing called Programming by Stealth, where he's teaching the audience to program in an audio podcast. So it definitely wouldn't make any sense to be part of the NosillaCast, but it was also a subset of Chit Chat Across the Pond. But then there were normal humans talking to me on Chit Chat Across the Pond, not Programming by Stealth. It's just like, 2 years ago, I just said, okay, enough. I'm going to extricate this, and I'm going to clean things up, and I'm going to bring Chit Chat Across the Pond back into the show. Except now Adam Engst is a regular on the show, and he really wanted it to be standalone, so it's actually in both places.
What do you think is the secret to the fact that when so many podcasts, so many like super successful podcasts have faded away over the years, that you've been able to keep going for 20 years?
Probably the biggest thing for me is having Steve, my husband, there to do so much over time. I don't know how I did the podcast when I had two kids that were living at home, in school, and I had a full-time job. I'm now retired and only doing this, and I have no time at all. And Steve does everything. He does the grocery shopping, he does the cooking, he does the laundry, he does everything. I wash his car and wax his car, but other than that, I pretty much don't do anything around here. I do the dishes, I guess. That's about it. But having him be in support of that, and then when we started doing the live show, that really energized me. Knowing that there's a live audience right there, right then, even if it's only a dozen people, knowing somebody's actually there listening to me right now lets me be a lot more interesting, I think. When I used to just sit alone with a microphone, it was lonely. You didn't really feel like there were people out there. And the live audience really brought it together. And then Steve started being the producer for that. And then he became more invested in the show. And then he started doing the video interviews when we go to CES and CSUN. He interviews, he's the cameraman and does all the production of that. So we're a team working on this. We're also both really good at doing the same thing for a really long time.
Yeah.
We worked for the same company for 35 years. We've been going to the same hairdresser for at least 15 years. I'm married to the same man for 42 years. We're good at doing something for a long time. So this is my wheelhouse here.
It's just part of who you are, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
And once I make a commitment to people, if I make a commitment, I'm in. That's why you won't get me making a commitment when I'm not really going to be doing it. I'm not going to, I'll say I'm going to show up to a party, but not show up. I will be there whether I want to or not. I have to be all in. That's who I am.
Now, you describe it as an ever so slight Apple bias. We described it as an Apple-centric podcast. And it is, but if people aren't as into Apple, there's still a lot for them to enjoy on NosillaCast, I would say, especially because of those video interviews that you're talking about.
Yeah, those are really all over the map. We look for the weirder, off the beaten path. You won't hear us talking about the latest TCL TV, or TCL's a company, right?
Yeah.
We were never talking about the big stuff. We're finding the weird, some toilet attachment. We actually interviewed Bemis about their bidet one year. And this, all the accessibility stuff at CSUN, that's definitely not Apple-centric. In fact, it's hardly ever even vaguely related to Apple. But if I'm talking about a piece of software, it's because it runs on the Mac or it runs on the iPhone. If it also runs on other platforms, yay, that's awesome. If it's cross-platform, but it's I just can't be enthusiastic about something I don't know anything about. I have to talk about what I know. And that's another key feature is people often say, I want to start a podcast. Okay, what kind of mic do I need? What kind of this do I need? What kind of tools? And I'll say, well, what do you want to talk about? I don't know. I'm going to figure that out later.
Yeah,
that's not going to work. You got to already be passionate about it.
The fact that you love what you're talking about is definitely a key to this. Last thing before I let you go, are you going to explain what Nosilla means to people? Because I didn't know what it meant for a decade, I think, until you explained it to me one day. And I was like, how did I not figure that out?
It's just as stupid as pod feet. It's my name spelled backwards, Tom.
I felt so ridiculous when you said that. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, it is.
I don't think people do figure it out, but I don't know. It has a nice ring to it.
It
does. Just doesn't mean anything. I'm hoping after 20 years, now it's got SEO. I did do a search in Claude for something, and it answered me with a link to my own website. So I thought that was cool.
Do you remember why you picked Allison backwards?
I think it might have been Steve's idea.
Oh, okay.
I have a dedication page to my brother Kelly and my friend Eric, who both used to make fun of my name all the time. And I think it might have been Eric said it. He said he was going to write a screenplay about a Japanese monster movie where the monster was named Nosilla.
Nosilla, okay. Yeah.
I think that's where it started, but Steve threw in the cast and then it became the Nosilla cast. So,
well, Allison, congratulations. Anything lasting 20 years is deserving of congratulations, but Nosilla cast is a must listen for me every week. You've got an amazing community of people that contribute to the show, not just listen to it. So if anybody listening hasn't checked it out, they should, because it is well worth your time.
Well, thank you, Tom. That's awesome. And I love being a sister community to DTNS. I feel like we've melded together and it makes it really fun.
Yeah. We're all part of the big growing podcast community of our own there. If people want to find it, where should they go?
Podfeet.com. No, it's not Podfeed, which would have been so much smarter. It's podfeet.com.
Congratulations, Allison.
Thanks, Tom.
Join in the conversation in our Discord, which you can join by linking to a Patreon account at patreon.com/DTNS.
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay, and you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. You can find anything there. It's unreal. Wipers, headlights, even cold air intakes. It's all there. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. Look, DIY fixes can be major. Doesn't matter if it's just maintenance or a major mod. You got it, especially when things are guaranteed to fit. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
Ever wonder what your lashes are destined for? The cards have spoken. Maybelline New York Mascara does it all. Whether you crave fully fan lashes with Lash Sensational, big, bold volume from the Colossal, a dramatic lift with Falsies Lash Lift, or natural-looking volume from Great Lash, your perfect lash future awaits. Manifest your best mascara today. Shop Maybelline New York and discover your lash destiny. Shop now at Walmart.
We end every episode of DTNS with some shared wisdom. Today, Marnie has some follow-up on our conversation from Thursday about the new Disney park coming to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, Marty has some inside information, actually worked with Disney for projects at Disneyland Florida, Disney World Anaheim, and Tokyo Disneyland, being on site in Anaheim and Tokyo specifically. Marty writes, the biggest differences I noticed is that in Tokyo, Disney feels very much like a client. In the other parks, Disney would tell us what they wanted, and we would work with them directly to deliver. But in Tokyo, Disney would tell us what they wanted, and then we would present that information together for approval, and things took longer than the other parks to complete because of that extra layer. But ultimately, OLC had the final say. It was an interesting, because for other parks, Disney felt like our boss on these projects, whereas in Tokyo, they felt like another supplier just like us. So it's interesting that they're doing a similar process in Abu Dhabi. I can also agree that the Tokyo version is much fancier, not just from build quality, but how the ship is run, so to speak. Everything in Tokyo was very organized, structured, scheduled, and well laid out for the employees. Things like shuttle schedules, crew catering, etc. was all very well done, and it felt like you were working in another city inside the park just for the staff. It was a very cool experience all in all. Anyway, wanted to share that. Thank you for sharing that, Marty. That's very cool.
That is pretty cool. I just wonder, what will those tickets cost? Because they're not inexpensive here. I wonder what they will cost in Abu Dhabi.
They are not going to be inexpensive in Abu Dhabi, would be my guess.
What are you thinking about? Got some insights into a story? Share it with us at feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com.
Big thanks to Allison Sheridan for celebrating her 20th anniversary with us today. Thanks to Marty for the insight on Disney. And thank you for being along for Daily Tech News Show. The show is made possible by our patrons, patreon.com/DTNS. I know a few of you have signed up for the workshop I'm doing in Austin, so thank you for doing that. If you'd like information about that, it's the weekend of June 27th. Find out more at bestnewsever.com. Talk to you soon.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Ever wonder what your lashes are destined for? The cards have spoken. Maybelline New York Mascara does it all. Whether you crave fully fan lashes with Lash Sensational, big, bold volume from the Colossal, a dramatic lift with Falsies Lash Lift, or natural-looking volume from Great Lash, your perfect lash future awaits. Manifest your best mascara today. Shop Maybelline New York and discover your lash destiny. Shop now at Walmart.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.